She didn't recognize him. None of them did. The man scrubbing their floors at 6 a.m. every morning for 3 weeks. The man they walked past without a second glance. The man they just accused of stealing and had security drag out in handcuffs. They had no idea they'd just made the biggest mistake of their careers, because that janitor they humiliated in front of the entire office. He wasn't a janitor at all. He was their new boss. And in 48 hours, every single person who laughed, every person who stayed silent, every person who assumed the worst, they were about to face a reckoning that would change their lives forever. Before we dive into Marcus's story, drop a comment right now and tell me, have you ever been underestimated because of how you looked? Have you ever been judged before anyone knew your story? Let me know in the comments, because Marcus's story, it's about to show you why assumptions are the most expensive mistakes we make. All right, let's go back to where it started. 3 weeks earlier, Marcus Webb was 41 years old, Stanford MBA, 15 years climbing the corporate ladder at tech giants in Silicon Valley, VP of operations at his last company, 6-figure salary, corner office. Respect, but Marcus had a problem. Not with his skills, not with his work ethic. His problem was that he kept seeing the same pattern everywhere he went. The people at the top, the executives making decisions, they had no idea what was happening on the ground floor. They didn't know their employees, didn't understand the systems, didn't see the waste, the inefficiency, the quiet cruelty happening right under their noses. So when Marcus was headhunted for the CEO position at Brennan Industries, a struggling mid-sized manufacturing firm in Detroit, he made an unusual request. Before I accept, he told the board of directors, I want 3 weeks. 3 weeks where nobody knows who I am. I want to work on your ground floor. See your company from the inside. See how your people really operate when they think nobody important is watching. The board thought he was crazy, but they were desperate. Brennan Industries was hemorrhaging money. Turnover was at 40%. Morale was in the gutter. They'd gone through 3 CEOs in 2 years, so they said yes. They'd announce Marcus as the new CEO in 3 weeks. Until then, he'd work as a night janitor. Marcus Webb, Stanford MBA, started his first shift at 10 p.m. on a Monday in late September. Blue coveralls, name tag that said Mark, a mop, and a bucket. And for 3 weeks, Marcus cleaned floors, emptied trash cans, scrubbed toilets, and watched everything. He saw Linda in accounting stay 2 hours past her shift every night, fixing mistakes that her boss took credit for. He saw the warehouse team working with broken equipment that management had been promising to replace for 6 months. He saw James, the security guard, sharing his lunch with Rachel, the receptionist, because her hours had been cut and she couldn't afford groceries. He saw kindness. He saw resilience. He saw people holding the company together with duct tape and determination, while the executives on the 4th floor blamed them for every failure. But Marcus also saw something else. He saw Tom Brennan Jr., the former CEO's son and current VP of operations. Tom, who showed up at 11 a.m. and left by 3 p.m., Tom, who screamed at employees for mistakes he'd made, Tom, who had a reserved parking spot, a private bathroom, and an expense account he used for country club memberships, while the warehouse team begged for safety equipment, and Marcus saw how people treated him, Mark the janitor. Most people didn't see him at all. He was invisible, furniture, part of the building. Some people were kind. Linda always said good morning. James always held doors open. Rachel once brought him coffee on a cold night, but others treated him like he was less than human. Tom Brennan Jr. once threw a half-eaten lunch at Marcus's feet and said, "You missed a spot, cleaner." Didn't even look at his face. One of the sales managers, a woman named Diane, complained loudly on her phone one day about the lazy janitors who probably can't even read English. Marcus cleaned quietly, took notes mentally, remembered every name, every action, every moment of casual cruelty, and every moment of unexpected grace. And then came week 3. Friday morning, November 8th, the day everything exploded. Marcus arrived for his shift at 5 a.m. earlier than usual because he wanted to finish the executive floor before people arrived. He was cleaning the 4th floor conference room when he noticed something. Tom Brennan Jr.'s office door was open, the light was on, and sitting on Tom's desk in plain view was an envelope. Marcus walked closer. The envelope was addressed to the board of directors. It was open. Inside were financial documents. Marcus recognized them immediately. These were the quarterly reports. But the numbers were wrong, completely wrong. Revenue inflated by 30%, losses hidden in restructured accounts. Fake vendor contracts. This wasn't incompetence. This was fraud. Tom Brennan Jr. was cooking the books, and he was about to present these fake numbers to the board in 4 days to secure his promotion to CEO. Marcus stood there, holding evidence of corporate fraud, wearing janitor coveralls, and he made a decision. He pulled out his phone, he took photographs, every page, every document, every piece of evidence. He was so focused he didn't hear the footsteps behind him until it was too late. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Tom Brennan Jr. stood in the doorway. He'd come in early, caught Marcus red-handed with his phone out, photographing documents on his desk. Tom's face went from shock to rage in half a second. "You're stealing corporate secrets. You're photographing confidential documents." Marcus opened his mouth to explain, but Tom was already shouting, "Security! Security! I've got a thief up here." Marcus stayed calm. "Mr. Brennan, if you'll just let me explain. You're a janitor. You're not supposed to be touching anything on my desk. You're not supposed to be in my office. And you sure as hell aren't supposed to be photographing my documents." 2 security guards rushed in. Not James. James wasn't on duty yet. These were the day shift guards, younger, eager to prove themselves. "This man was stealing corporate information," Tom said. "I want him arrested. I want charges filed. I want him out of this building in handcuffs." Marcus tried again. "I'm not stealing anything. I'm trying to." "I don't care what you're trying to do," Tom interrupted. "You're a janitor. You're nobody, and you just made the biggest mistake of your worthless life." The security guards grabbed Marcus's arms. They weren't gentle. One of them twisted his wrist, forcing him to drop his phone. The other one pulled out handcuffs. By now, other employees were arriving. It was 7 a.m. The office was filling up, and everyone stopped to watch. They watched Marcus Webb, the quiet janitor who'd cleaned their floors for 3 weeks, get handcuffed and dragged toward the elevator. Diane, the sales manager, pulled out her phone and started recording. "This is crazy," she said to her colleague, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I knew these janitors were sketchy. Probably illegal, too. Bet he's got a record." Tom followed them to the elevator, still shouting, "Let this be a lesson to everyone. We have 0 tolerance for theft. I don't care who you are. You steal from Brennan Industries, you go to jail." The elevator doors opened. The guards shoved Marcus inside. He didn't resist. He stood there, hands cuffed behind his back, blue coveralls, name tag that said Mark, and he looked at Tom Brennan Jr. He looked at Diane recording him. He looked at the 30 employees watching in the lobby, and Marcus said one sentence. "You should have asked who I am before you called the police." Tom laughed. A cruel, mocking laugh. I know exactly who you are. You're nobody. The elevator doors closed. Marcus was taken to the ground floor. The real police were called. Officers arrived. Statements were taken. Tom insisted on pressing charges: theft of corporate property, trespassing. The officers looked at Marcus, at his coveralls, at his calm demeanor, and something didn't add up. "Sir," one officer said to Marcus, "do you want to make a statement?" "Yes," Marcus said. "Call David Brennan, the chairman of the board. Tell him Marcus Webb would like to speak with him." The officer blinked. "Marcus Webb. I thought your name was Mark." "My name," Marcus said clearly, "is Marcus Webb, and in approximately 2 hours, I'm supposed to be introduced as the new CEO of this company." The officer stared at him. The security guards stared at him. And across the lobby, Linda from accounting, who'd just arrived, heard every word. Her hand flew to her mouth. The officer made the call. 3 minutes later, his face went pale. He turned to the security guards. "Uncuff him now." But now the handcuffs came off. Marcus rubbed his wrists. The officer looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "Mr. Webb, I am so sorry. We had no idea. If we'd known." "If you'd known I was important," Marcus interrupted gently, "you would have treated me differently." That's the problem, isn't it? Within 10 minutes, the lobby was chaos. David Brennan, the 70-year-old chairman and founder, came rushing down from the executive floor. When he saw Marcus still in coveralls, still holding his janitor badge, his face crumpled. "Marcus. Oh, God. Marcus, what happened?" "Your VP of operations just had me arrested for discovering that he's committing fraud," Marcus said calmly. He pulled out his phone, the one the security guards had returned. "I have photographs, falsified financial reports, fake vendors, hidden losses. He was planning to present these to you on Tuesday to secure a promotion." David's hands shook as he looked at the photos. His face went from shocked to devastated to furious. "Where is he? Where's Tom?" Tom Brennan Jr. was still on the 4th floor, still celebrating. He'd sent an email to the entire executive team bragging about catching a thief. He had no idea what was coming. David Brennan took the elevator up. Marcus followed, still in his coveralls, still wearing the name tag that said Mark. When they walked into the executive floor, conversation stopped. Tom saw them and smiled. "Dad, did you hear? I caught a janitor stealing corporate secrets." Quick thinking, right? David's voice was ice. "Tom, come into the conference room now." Something in his father's tone made Tom's smile falter. They walked into the conference room, the same room where Marcus had been cleaning 5 hours earlier. David closed the door. He turned to his son. "The man you had arrested this morning. That was Marcus Webb." Tom blinked. "Who?" "Marcus Webb, our new CEO, the man I've been telling you about for 3 weeks. The man who's been working undercover to assess this company, the man you just humiliated, handcuffed, and accused of being a thief in front of the entire office." The color drained from Tom's face. That ... that was him. "Yes." Tom turned to Marcus, for the first time, really looked at him. And Marcus looked back, silent, waiting. Tom's mouth opened and closed. I didn't know, I thought. He was just a janitor." "I am a janitor," Marcus said quietly. "I've been a janitor for 3 weeks. I've also been watching you, watching how you treat people, watching how you run this company into the ground while blaming everyone else." David held up Marcus's phone. "And this morning, while working as a janitor, Marcus discovered that you've been falsifying financial reports. Care to explain?" Tom's face went white, then red, then white again. I can't explain. It's not what it looks like. I was just ... adjusting the numbers to show our potential, to make the company look stronger. It's strategic presentation." "It's fraught," David said. His voice broke. "It's fraught, Tom, and you are going to present these lies to the board. You are going to take credit for success you faked while this company collapsed." Tom looked at Marcus, desperate now. "Look, I'm sorry about this morning. I made a mistake, but you were in my office, photographing my documents without permission. You have to understand how that looked." "I understand exactly how it looked," Marcus said. "It looked like a black man in coveralls didn't belong in your office. It looked like I was beneath you, invisible, not worth listening to, not worth the benefit of the doubt." Tom flinched. I'm not racist. You just assumed," Marcus interrupted. "You assumed I was a thief because of what I was wearing, where I was standing, what you thought I was worth." The room went silent. David looked at his son with something like grief. "You're fired, Tom, effective immediately. HR will contact you about the investigation. If these charges are substantiated, and I believe they will be, we'll be pressing criminal charges." Tom's face crumpled. "Dad, please, I made a mistake. Don't do this." "You didn't make a mistake," David said. "You made 1,000 choices, and this morning you showed everyone in this company exactly who you are." Tom looked at Marcus one more time. Then he walked out, door closing behind him with a soft click. David turned to Marcus. The old man's eyes were wet. "Marcus, I am so deeply sorry. What happened to you this morning? The humiliation, the assumption, the handcuffs, that should never happen to anyone, ever. And it certainly shouldn't happen to the man we hired to lead this company." "It shouldn't happen to anyone," Marcus repeated. "Not to a CEO, not to a janitor. That's the point." David nodded slowly. "What do you need from me?" "I need you to call an all-staff meeting," Marcus said. "Right now, everyone in the building. I want them in the auditorium in 30 minutes. You're going to introduce yourself. I'm going to teach them something." 30 minutes later, 300 employees crowded into Brennan Industries auditorium, confused, anxious. Rumors were flying. Tom Brennan had been fired. The janitor from this morning was someone important. The police had been called. Nobody knew what was happening. David Brennan walked onto the stage. He looked older than he had 3 weeks ago, tired, but his voice was clear. 3 weeks ago, David said, "I hired a new CEO. His name is Marcus Webb, Stanford MBA. 15 years of executive experience, one of the most brilliant minds in operations management." But before Marcus accepted the position, he made an unusual request. He wanted 3 weeks to work here undercover, to see this company from the ground up, to understand who we really are when we think nobody important is watching. The auditorium went dead silent. For 3 weeks, David continued. Marcus worked the night shift as a janitor. He cleaned your floors. He emptied your trash. He saw how this company really operates. And this morning, many of you saw him arrested, handcuffed, humiliated, accused of being a thief. David paused. "I'd like to introduce you to your new CEO, Marcus Webb." Marcus walked onto the stage, still in his coveralls, still wearing the name tag that said Mark. The auditorium exploded, gasps, whispers. A few people started crying. Diane, the sales manager who'd recorded his arrest, looked like she was going to be sick. Marcus stood at the podium. He looked out at 300 faces. "My name is Marcus Webb," he said. "But for 3 weeks, you knew me as Mark the janitor. Some of you didn't know me at all. I want to start by thanking the people who saw me. Linda, in accounting, you said good morning to me every single day. You stayed late fixing other people's mistakes and never complained. James, in security, you shared your lunch with Rachel when she was struggling. You held doors. You treated me like a human being. Rachel, you brought me coffee on a cold night. You didn't know who I was. You were just kind. Linda was crying now. James stood at the back, tears streaming down his face. To those of you who treated me like I was invisible, Marcus continued, I understand. We're all busy. We all have pressures. But I want you to think about something. How many people do you walk past every day without seeing? How many people do you assume are less important than you because of what they're wearing, how they look, where they're standing? He paused. This morning, I was arrested. Tom Brennan Jr. found me photographing evidence of fraud in his office. He didn't ask questions. He didn't listen to my explanation. He saw a black man in coveralls, and he assumed I was a criminal. He called security. He had me handcuffed. He humiliated me in front of all of you, and many of you watched. Some of you recorded it. Some of you made assumptions about who I was, about my background, about whether I deserved what was happening. Diane was sobbing now, audibly. I'm not telling you this to shame you, Marcus said. I'm telling you this because it reveals something broken, not just in this company, in all